we're commemorating one of the most solemn days in the history of Israel and the Jewish people, known in Hebrew as Tisha B'Av, or the 9th of Av. This is the very same day that both the first and second Jewish temples in Jerusalem were destroyed, just hundreds of years apart. We're marking this pivotal day on the ground in Jerusalem with two top Israeli archaeologists who uncover ancient artifacts dating back thousands of years. 586 BC, the mighty Babylonian Empire of King Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the first temple, Solomon's temple, and burned it to the ground. Fast forward a few hundred years later to the year 70 AD, when the Roman general Titus burned the second temple to the ground. It had been the very place where Jesus taught and chased out the money changers, as described in the Gospels. Folks, remember, the temple was the center of all Jewish cultural and religious life, and according to 2 Chronicles, the divine presence of God even dwelt inside Solomon's temple. Yet both temples were destroyed on the exact same date on the Hebrew calendar, just a few hundred years apart. It's really hard to believe, but it happened, and Jews around the world still commemorate this day. And we want to do the same, because number one, there are evil forces gathered today that would still like to destroy Israel, so it's a cautionary tale. And number two, because we see the hand of God in Israel's miraculous rebirth and how it's risen out of the ashes to live again. A little while back, I visited the city of David, ancient Jerusalem, with Dr. Yiftach Shalev, a top archaeologist from the Israel Antiquities Authority, to see a structure dating back some 2,600 years to the time of the first temple's destruction. The building and artifacts uncovered give us a glimpse of what life was like in Jerusalem during the period of that awful Babylonian invasion. Take a look.
Yiftach, lead the way.
Let's go.
To the next room in this ancient First Temple period structure at the Givati archaeological dig, an active dig here at the city of David in Jerusalem.
On our way there, take a look at these massive stones at the entrance to the room. These ashlars, stones that were chiseled in order to have a square shape, is another indication for the high rank of the person who lived here.
Yeah, Yiftach, nicely done, this work, first of all. The masonry work, I guess you would say. Right. And again, very well preserved. These look like pillars.
It is. These are piers, not exactly pillars, but these are piers who carry the roof of the second floor that we talked about before, who collapsed down during the fire.
And again, folks, we see the debris here. We see the rubble 2,600 years ago right here.
Yeah, this is a snapshot for the day of the destruction.
That horrible Babylonian destruction under King Nebuchadnezzar. Well, shall we go inside the room? A very important room, as you said.
Okay, Eric, now we are in the most important room of the structure that we dug. First, you can see here remains of the destruction.
Yeah, the black. I mean, Yiftach, I see black everywhere on these walls. The charring from the burning from the Babylonians.
Exactly. These are remains of the beams that carried the floor of the second floor. Just crashed together.
Just crashed right down.
Yeah, and with them pottery vessels that were used at the second floor falling down.
Wow, so that's a pottery vessel right there, 2,600 years old.
Exactly.
And just so folks know, we are underground. We're deep underground here at the Givati dig. This once was surface level, but it's been buried over thousands of years.
Exactly. Now, one of the most incredible finds that we got here in this room, right on the floor, is a bulla. A bulla is a stamp seal. You remember the seal we saw before?
Yeah.
So this is the result of a seal this way. It's basically a piece of clay that was used to seal a document. You can still see at the back side the remains of the papyrus that was here, and the
not paper, but the papyrus in that day that it was sealed onto.
Exactly.
The ancient parchment.
And why is it so important? because of the name that is written here.
Yeah, you can see the ancient Hebrew writing there.
Exactly. Now you can see the writing. This is how we found it. It was this clear when we found it in the excavation. It was not coming from sifting or anything. It was just found here in the dirt.
In this very room.
Exactly.
And again, we're talking about the walls. This is very well preserved. You can see the writing clearly, Yiftach.
It is. It's very unique. When it was found, and you can imagine the yelling that came.
Of course.
We heard it from above, and we came down here, and it took us a few minutes, but we were able to read most of the letters right here on the spot.
Wow.
And the inscription says, Le Netan Melech, Eved HaMelech, to Netan Melech, or actually belonging to Netan Melech, the servant of the king.
Now tell us who he was.
Okay, so first by his title, the servant of the king, you can understand that this is an official. This is a person of high rank, someone who had worked in the king court.
Yeah. So a high-ranking government official at that.
Servant of the king is a title not of a servant, but an official of the king.
In the king's court, in his cabinet, I guess you would say.
All right, exactly. Now, Netan Melech is a very rare name. It was never found in any of the documents outside of the Bible, and in the Bible it's only mentioned once in the book of Kings 2. And now we're talking about the days of Josiah, the
King Josiah, the great reformer, yeah.
Exactly. During his reform, according to the text, he also burnt the chariots of the sun that were in the Temple Mount. We don't know exactly what it means, but it's probably part of the Assyrian cult to the sun, some kind of a chariot that used to go from east to west in the morning, depicting the movement of the sun.
This was pagan worship or idol worship on the Temple Mount, of all places.
Exactly.
And Josiah said, no more.
So he, according to the text, he burned down the chariot and he gave the horses to his servant, Netan Melech, to take the horses to his house outside of the city somewhere. The name is rare. It's mentioned here and mentioned in the book. The epigraphy, the shape of the letters, dates the inscription to late 7th, early 6th century, the days of Josiah.
And may I hold this, by the way?
Of course.
Thank you, my friend. And please continue as I just admire this incredible archaeological find, 2,600 years old. 2 Kings, Netan Melech, the court of King Josiah. Please continue, Yiftach, as I admire this.
So I'm saying the dating is the same. It was found in a structure from the days of this king. So I can't say for 100% that this, our Netan Melech and Netan Melech from the Bible are the same person, but it is likely they are.
Yeah, very, very likely. You know, I thought I had a cool job. You might have the coolest job ever, uncovering finds like this.
I think, and this is a unique job. It gives you an opportunity to touch things from the past.
Yiftach, we have to let you go to do some more digging and to make some more incredible discoveries here at the City of David. But before you go, can I hold this one more time? Just one more.
Sure.
Thank you, my friend. Folks, not many people in the world are getting a chance to hold this incredible archaeological find from 2,600 years ago. Netan Melech from 2 Kings. To say I'm thrilled is an understatement. Wow. Yiftach, thank you so much. It was a thrill. I will be careful there. Keep up the great work, my friend. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you here again soon at the City of David.
We will be here.
Yes, Yiftach. Toda rabah. Thank you, my friend.
Up next, we go from the remains of the first temple to those of the second temple, where we'll see excavations and artifacts found underneath the western wall dating back to Bible times. Stick around. Welcome back to Stakelbeck Tonight. We're continuing to commemorate the 9th of Av, the day of remembrance for the historic destruction of both ancient Jewish temples. Now, a little while back, I got a chance to see an incredible excavation being done underneath the Western Wall in Jerusalem. The relics date back to both the first and second temples, and seeing them in person really paints a picture of what life was like during these times of great upheaval for the people of Israel. Take a look.
Brock, this is the moment I've been waiting for. The anticipation is killing me. You're going to show us some of those amazing archaeological finds.
Exactly. So we have here, a sample of the finds we just found during the excavation here, together with the Western Wall Heritage Foundation. What we have here are remains of the destruction of the temple by the Roman legions. So we have here a tile, a brick made out of clay with letters.
That's not Hebrew.
That's not Hebrew. This is Latin, and something that I guess all your viewers can see and understand. So we have here the letters LEXFR. LE stands for Legion. X is the number of the legion, the 10th legion, and FR, it's his nickname, because every Roman legion had a serial number and a nickname, and the FR stands for Fretensis. That was their Latin nickname. So this is remains of the destruction of the temple.
AD 70.
AD 70, exactly, because this tile, this brick, was made by the Roman legionnaires who actually destroyed the temple and destroyed Jerusalem 2,000 years ago.
Unbelievable.
And later on, they started to rebuild the city, and this is what we find here at the plaza.
And look at Jerusalem today.
Yes.
The Romans would have never thought that this city is thriving once again, and the Jewish people are back.
Exactly. From the Abbasid period, so we have here oil lamps made out of clay.
Wow.
And this is, oil lamp for grown-ups, but we also have oil lamp for kids, miniature oil lamp.
So in the kids' bedroom, one, mom and dad's bedroom, the other.
Exactly. So, this is have a smaller light, for kids to have or to play.
Am I able to hold one of these? Is that possible?
Of course.
Wow, wow, wow. Incredible. And by the way, although this city has been ruled by Muslims, Christians, there's always been a Jewish presence in Jerusalem continuously.
Exactly.
For the past, even after the destruction of the temple. Sometimes it was small, but there's always been a Jewish presence here.
Yes, and Jews always, came and wanted to worship and to be close to the temple, even after it was destroyed. It was still, an important role in their life, and it was an important place for them, a sacred place for them, even after it was destroyed. And one of the most earliest finds that we found here dated to what we call what we archaeologists call the Iron Age, the time of the first temple, the time of the Old Testament, when prophets walked here on the same stones you're now standing on. So we have here weights that are what's called the 2 shekel weight, and this is actually part of their weight system. And we're talking about time.
How did that work, the weight system?
Okay, we're talking about time that there was no money, there were no coins. So people used small bites of silver in order to go to the market and buy things. And when you want to know, how much silver you need to pay for, let's say, olive oil or some maize you want to buy in the market. So you put this very precise weight on the weights, and then you put small portions of silver, and then that, let's say you want to buy some flour or wheat, you put 2 shekalim, then you put the same weight of silver, you give the silver with that weight, and this is a small weight, it's more worn. We found it just this week, so 2 days ago.
Just this week.
Yeah.
Long before the days of PayPal and credit cards you're looking at right now.
So yes, and these are those 2 weights dated 2,700 years ago.
Solomon's Temple.
Exactly.
Still standing, still thriving now. I know this is a new discovery. Am I able to hold this one?
Of course, sure.
Wow. A fresh discovery, I guess you would say. I was going to say hot off the presses, but hot out of the rocks, I guess you would say. Amazing. From the time of Solomon's Temple. And again, your mind races, who held this 2,700 years ago?
Exactly.
Who knows?
But whoever held it, he saw the kings of Judea. He heard the prophets here. He saw, the people who wrote the Bible, the Old Testament. Those people who hold those items were part of this, very crucial moment in the history of mankind.
Brock, you work here every day. You get to see this every day and to touch these amazing artifacts, taking you back to the times of the Bible every day. What does this mean to you personally? Why do you do what you do? And how great is this? It never gets old, does it? It's old.
It's old, but it never gets old.
But it never gets old.
Exactly. I love history. I love the archaeology. I love to know what happened to the past. Us archaeologists, you know, we come and we dub the silent item, the silent artifacts. Yeah. We bring them to life, and we bring them to the public to see and to know and to feel.
Yeah, it's like a black and white film all of a sudden becoming color, or a silent film all of a sudden having sound.
Exactly.
Brock, thank you for all that you were doing. And there is much more to come. We know this is only the beginning. Great stuff. It was an honor and a privilege to be here, and a real thrill. Brock, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for all you do. We appreciate it. God bless you.
Well, coming up after the break, we walk a road that dates back 2,000 years to the time of the Second Temple. It's a road that Jesus almost certainly walked, and you'll see it next. Welcome back. The 9th of Av. It's a solemn day of remembrance for Jews around the world because both the first and second temples were destroyed on this very date. Now, thousands of years later, archaeologists are discovering pieces of antiquity that validate these historical events. And we got to visit one of these places in the city of David, ancient Jerusalem, with our good friend Ze'ev Orenstein. It's the very pilgrimage road used by Jesus and the disciples as they went up to the temple. Take a look.
Now we know where the Pool of Siloam is. We know where the Temple Mount is. How did these hundreds of thousands of pilgrims who were going up to the Temple Mount on the pilgrimage festivals, how did they get there? And what did they discover? They discover the very road that we are walking on now, the 2,000-year-old pilgrimage road that would have taken our ancestors 2,000 years ago. Whether you're today Jewish or Christian, your ancestors would have walked on this road when they ascended to the temple that stood atop the Temple Mount.
This is how they got there.
This is how they got there.
Amazing. 2,000 years ago, during the Second Temple period, this is how worshipers went up to the holiest place in the world.
That's right.
The Temple Mount.
And this also would have been outside. There would have been shops and homes around us. The road would have been much wider than it is today. And it's interesting that on the one hand, we're walking up the pilgrimage road. On the other hand, as we walked up the road, there are portions of the road that are cracked.
I noticed that.
And archaeologists were trying to understand. First they thought, well, maybe they're ancient potholes. But they saw the cracks were evenly spaced, as if somebody made those holes intentionally. And they couldn't figure out why. Why would somebody do that? So they looked to the writings of the historian Josephus. And Josephus says in the year 70, Jerusalem is being destroyed. The temple is in flames. The last Jews of Jerusalem sought refuge from the Romans. Where? In the drainage channel directly beneath our feet.
Wow, so the last holdouts, these people were trying in vain, unfortunately, to hold out against the Romans who were looking to finish the job here in Jerusalem, and it was brutal.
That's right, and the Romans, they find out about it, and they come with sledgehammers. They break open the road. They find the Jews hiding there. And then Josephus goes on to say that the Romans killed all 2,000 Jews they find there.
They massacred them beneath where we're standing.
That's right, and archaeologists find Roman sword and scabbard, presumably one that was used to kill the last 2,000 Jews of Jerusalem.
But that's not all they found here, Ze'ev. On the road to pilgrimage, there were some more fascinating finds.
That's right. In particular, two coins that tell very different stories of what happened here. The first is a Roman coin, the most minted Roman coin to commemorate a victory. On one side of this coin, you see the Roman Emperor Vespasian, the year 71. On the other side of the coin, it says Judea Capta, and you have a Roman legionnaire standing above a Jewish woman on her knees crying. There's another coin that was discovered here, a much more humble coin, small bronze coin, and it says on it, on one side of the coin, in the year 70. On the other side of this coin, it says an ancient Hebrew script, Lecherut Zion, for the freedom of Zion. Zion, of course, being another name for Jerusalem. But scholars have long wondered, why were the Jews minting these coins? Because the coins themselves at that time were worthless. They had no monetary value. Now, the people who minted these coins, they probably thought, maybe a few decades, maybe a century. They couldn't imagine it would be nearly 2,000 years. But here we are today, 2,000 years later, standing in the city of David, standing in Jerusalem, the capital of the Jewish state of Israel, standing today here when there is a free Zion, a free Jerusalem, where people of all faiths and backgrounds, Jews, Christians alike, can come here and connect with the significance of Jerusalem.
Ze'ev, God is moving. The God of Israel is moving, and I don't see a Roman flag anywhere here around the city of David, but I do see the Israeli flag, the Star of David. The people of Israel live. The Romans are probably turning in their graves, but I think God Almighty is pretty happy right now.
Coming up after the break, my final thoughts on the history and relevance of the 9th of Av. Don't move. Welcome back to Stakelbeck Tonight. Folks, we know from reading extra biblical sources like the historian Josephus that the destruction of the Second Temple was horrific. We also know from the Bible in 2 Kings that the destruction of the First Temple, Solomon's Temple, at the hands of the Babylonians was equally catastrophic. But here's the good news. The Jewish people have returned to their ancient and ancestral homeland, never to be uprooted again. And in 1967, Jerusalem once again became the undivided capital of the nation of Israel. These are miraculous prophetic events, along with incredible excavations and artifacts like the ones we showed you earlier. We've got rock-solid proof that the temples did indeed exist in Jerusalem and that the Jewish people have a right to the land of Israel today. So as we remember this day, the 9th of Av, let's do as Psalm 122 verse 6 says, and pray for the peace of Jerusalem. It's a place that's seen so much tragedy throughout the ages, but it's one that has a glorious future as the city of the great King, where Jesus will rule and reign. Till next time, God bless you, and we'll see you soon.